Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
We're back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Paul Buitron. I'm here with Sarah Patterson. And we're talking about 50-50 equality, parental equality with a child. And Sarah, how are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Many people always talk about, visitation rights and how many days do I have with my child and so on and so forth. And many people also look for 50-50 parental equality. Can you elaborate on what 50-50 is?
Yes. So there are many different ways that you can do 50-50. You can do like a week on, week off. You can do 2-2-3. There are so many different schedules that you can do, and you can kind of make it fit more for your family and your children. But the basic overall concept of it is to equally parent a child when the parents are no longer together, whether it be through divorce or when they break up if they're not married. And it makes sure that child gets equal time, equal bonding, equal experiences with both their mother and their father.
And that's what basically everybody wants. And usually a lot of people go into a divorce with that, and they end up with either standard visitation or extended visitation rights. And people end up with, I thought it was 50-50 that we're going to come in, and somebody usually gets kicked into the curb. And it happens so much now that ends up going into it opens the door to something ugly that's ringing up its face now, and people are paying more attention to. That's called parental alienation. And we've talked before, and in parental alienation, how do you think it goes with 50-50 parenting? Do you think it actually stops it?
I think that equal shared parenting, maximizing parenting, whatever you want to call it, is the biggest weapon we have against parental alienation as a society. When you go into something and mom and dad are equal, they're on equal ground, they're treated equally, we're looking at what's in, I don't want to say best interest of the child, because I don't really think that that's a good way to phrase it. It's what's healthiest for the child. What will get the child from what age they are now to adulthood for them to be the best possible person that they can be later in life. So how do we do that? How do we stop all of this? When you go in there and you say, okay, we're going to co-parent, you guys are going to do this together, you take away one person's idea that they are more important, that they have more power. You remove having that child be in the middle and be the pawn. And unfortunately, in my experience through not just my family's dealings in family court, but with talking to all of the different mothers and fathers that I have talked to that are the targeted parent of parental alienation, when you take that power away from the person, you put that other person back in play. And that is what we're wanting for our children. And I don't think any of that made any sense.
No, it does, because you see a lot of people do not understand that this option exists, but and they don't understand about parental alienation until they're in involved, and it's usually about 1.5 to 2 years when it gets to them and they understand, oh, well, wait a minute, this is happening.
Right.
Or when all of a sudden you're told you cannot see your child this weekend, or guess what, go fly a kite, or what have you not, then that's when you're going to understand that it's happening. And then you're going to try to find some options, and that occurs. I know that and legislation just started here, 2 days ago, here in Texas.
Yes.
And I know our lieutenant governor, he came out and he was very much to the point that he said, I hope this is a year that we have parental equality. And hopefully, I misquoted him, but that's basically what he said. And hopefully there's a couple of bills. Can you explain the bill that's in the House, huh?
Yes. So there is a bill 803 that is the purpose is to make equal parenting, equal shared parenting be the go-to option in the state of Texas. Now, what that does is it doesn't do anything bad to the children of Texas. So that's where we start. If you are two parents, you live 2 miles apart, there has to be a reason. That's where you're going to start in your divorce. There has to be a reason to move that ball from 50-50 to something like a backup plan of expanded standard or standard. It does not change the current statutes where abusers would not be able to get joint custody, so they would not then be eligible for equal shared parenting. It would still give judges discretion that if the parents live, let's say mom lives in Amarillo and dad lives in Houston, obviously for a 12-year-old, 50-50 is not going to work. So
Exactly.
you can move the ball based on the individual family, the individual needs of the child, the individual plans that work for the parents. It just gives us a starting place. And if we can't stay there, then we need to be able to say why we can't stay there. It also hopefully will have an impact on the parental alienation. Because when you go into court, there are so many tricks that lawyers have in which they, through litigation and through actual legal means, they do something that is called legal abuse. And that can happen by the mother using it or the father using it. Because I typically deal more with fathers and only a handful of mothers, I see it more being utilized by women. So you do things like what the family law reform calls the silver bullet claims. You can go get a restraining order against your ex with no evidence, with no real justification. You can actually get a restraining order with nothing more than saying, yeah, there's not a history of anything. I just am afraid that he is capable of doing something at some point in the future. That's unacceptable. You can use these legal means and these loopholes in the law in order to kind of back your co-parent, your soon-to-be ex-spouse, your ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend into a corner in which they don't have the ability to maintain their parental relationship with your child. And so part of what my hope is with a shared parenting bill is it's going to kind of cut that out. I firmly believe that people are generally good people. So when you go into a court and a judge says to both mom and dad, we're going to start at 50-50 equal shared parenting, that's where you're setting the bar. That's where you're saying this is how we're going to behave. Then you're going to kind of hopefully impact the judicial legal abuse that happens, and you're going to start lowering that. Because if everybody goes in there thinking that they're equal and knowing that their expectation is to co-parent, then we're not going in there like we are now. Because now we're going in there and everybody knows you're going to do whatever you have to do to win.
Now, we're talking about how people can go about and going into the 50-50 parenting. What's your take on that? What's your experiences? Is there more mothers that want it, more fathers that want it?
I think that the majority of them that I talk to are pretty equally split, unless they've had some sort of really bad situation happen to them before. Now, of course, parents who have had some sort of abusive situation, whether the victim be the father or the mother, they're less supportive of 50-50 due to their circumstances, but they support it for the majority of other people. The number of people that 50-50 would help, the number of Texas children that 50-50 would help, definitely outweighs the amount of children that need the other pieces of it. And those cases would then have more time in front of a judge, and then they would fall under different statutes in the family code.
Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff that happens within, you talk to parents and you talk to a lot of fathers, we both do, and it occurs to others as well. But there's a lot of abuse, especially with lawyers and in the cases, and there's a lot of abuse. You see it more with father, like a lot of people talk about a silver bullet. Explain the silver bullet to those out there for them to really analyze what it is and for them to have an idea.
Okay. So the silver bullet is really where you use claims of abuse that are false or fraudulent. You use legal loopholes, and you use these different ways that even if you're not lying, they're legally acceptable, but they're really not morally acceptable. So right now, I can go to a court and I can get a restraining order against pretty much anyone. We could honestly pick a name out of the phone book and I could go into court. I could get a restraining order without having had any history of any situations. I simply need to be able to tell the judge, not that I'm even afraid of this person, but that this person might be capable of doing some harm to me at some point in time in the future. You know, a really good example of this is in the 90s, a woman in New Mexico got a restraining order against David Letterman. She had never met him, and the restraining order was given to her under these same principles simply because she felt he was talking to her and threatening her through her television. Those same principles are applied in family court. So the easiest way to get a leg up against the other parent is to go before the court and say that there has been some sort of abuse in the household, or not even to say that, but just simply to file a restraining order. What that does is that then the other parent cannot see the children. They cannot interact with you. They for sure can't co-parent with you. So there's actually out on YouTube, there is a video of where during the continuing education courses that lawyers go through in the state of Texas, an actual district attorney touches on not sending abuse claims to the criminal DAs because they need a higher level of evidence. And if they don't have it, then the family court lawyers have lost the leverage that claim gives them in their court cases. So these are things that we see all the time being used against parents,
Sure.
and used against children. Because when you attack one of the parents, you're actually attacking that child. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand. We really need to focus on silver bullet, and we need to fix the system Because when you attack that parent and you remove them, you're attacking that child.
Absolutely. And it's happened, and you hear the cases, and you hear and you can see some of the lawyers, especially here in Webb County. You already know which lawyers are the ones that are going to be using that, and they have a pattern. It's interesting to see, and it's interesting that there's a name like Silver Bullet, but all in all, what I think parents should be doing is going forward with the 50-50. If this passes, if the bill passes, that means it'll probably start either this September 1st, correct? If it continues, if it's made it to law, I think it'll go into September 1st.
I believe so.
Most of them do.
Yes, I believe so.
And if that's the case, and you're probably going to see an upsoar in a lot of parents that are going to go try to fight for 50-50. So you're going to see that soar up dramatically in a lot of the courts right now. If that occurs, believe me, by December, you're going to have a lot of parents wanting to do that, and rightfully so. And I think that's what I think judges need to be aware of that. And I think our legislation is probably doing that, because you've all been fighting for this for a very long time. And so I think it's something that needs to be done for the benefit of our children. That option has to happen. Tell us another scenario that 50-50 would stop or will eliminate. People usually, when you talk to them about 50-50, they usually say, you all just want that because you don't want to pay child support.
Well, first thing to say to people like that is that child support is a completely separate topic than possession. In the state of Texas, child support is not calculated taking into account the amount of time that the non-custodial parent has the child. It's a flat rate. So that first argument is completely null and void. It has nothing to do with it. Any changes to the child support is something that is done out of agreement between the two parents, either on their own, and then put into the decree, or it is something that they do in mediation, which is then put into the decree. But I can tell you from personal experience. So my family does 50-50 because I'm actually the stepmom. And we have tried throughout our 16-year journey as a blended family. We've always tried to put our best foot forward. Now, we've not always accomplished that. Everybody think back to when you're 20. Nobody behaves the way at 22 that you do at 32 or, at 40. So one thing that we saw is that when we went to mediation and we actually got 50-50 put in our order, and it got laid out, we went a little bit further than this bill would do. Or any of the shared parenting bills, because that's not the only shared parenting bill. That's just the only one that's fully been pushed out at this time. But there are an expectation of other bills. We went further. So there's no custodial parent in my family. Both mother and father have to live within our county. And if you leave our county, you become the non-custodial parent. So our family elected to go further, but what happened is, as soon as that became official, there was like a mental change to all of us in our mindsets. So even though we had been doing 50-50 right, by choice and by agreement, there was still the idea that standard possession order, which is your cookie cutter, every family in Texas is going to get this schedule, that was still on the back burner. So there was still always this idea that one parent had the power to just say, no, I'm done. I don't want to do 50-50 anymore. We're going to go back to the standard possession order. There was always this power struggle within and among the four of us. And the minute that paperwork was signed that said mom and dad are equal, it's going to be week on, week off, everything's going to be split 50-50, and everything was laid out. We laid it all out and we closed as many loopholes as we could. Our mindset changed. Going to school functions, we're that weird set of blended, we're that weird blended family. We sit in a row. Dad and I are here, and right next to us are mom and stepdad. You know, I was the PTA treasurer for middle school. I had more time. I'm on the booster club at the high school now, for junior ROTC. That's not a problem for us. Why? Because my work schedule allows for that. The other threes do not, but there's not this push and pull. There is this understanding, and yay, at least one of us has time to go do this. And we're a co-parenting team. It's not, I'm sorry.
I said, that's the way it should be.
Right. And it's entirely because of that mental switch that having the paperwork say, you're going to do 50-50, here's the expectations, here's how we're all going to behave. It is entirely because of that. It's like this magic little pill. We went into mediation not being very happy with each other. We came out of mediation. We could have probably gotten to lunch directly after mediation. You know, I mean, it's not going to work for everybody. You're still going to have some personalities that are just they're not going to understand that everybody's equal. They're still going to want to make the power plays. But for the majority of parents who really are looking and focusing on their kids, this is going to help it, because part of the great thing about this is it takes our focus off of the parents. We're not focusing on mom's time or mom's rights or dad's time or dad's rights. This refocuses everyone, the judge, legislation, mom, dad, grandparents, everyone's focus narrows down to the child or the children where it should have been the entire time.
Absolutely. And you see, and that's what we have to bring in. And you all have a beautiful energy. That positive energy can be spread throughout Texas, and people need to hear that and need to start looking forward for that. And you know, the bickering has to stop. Parent alienation has to be quashed, even though we can't. But you know, and if 50-50 is an option to actually stop it, then that's what we have to start going with. And we have to some way find how how are we going to have a check and balance towards the magistrates that infuse and continue abusing parental alienation. And, you know, there has to be some kind of, you know, if there, you know, and there's some magistrates out there that kind of gloat on the fact that they're doing that. You know, you can see their smile when you're in there, and you're like, you know, that's not where you're supposed to be. But you know, we need to have some kind of check and balances, and I think 50-50 is number one. That's what we have to start. And then from there, we can start looking at the whole array of things, because there's way too much.
Right. And one of the other great things that 50-50 does, as far as bringing accountability to the judges, is one, I believe, because that's just my personality and I have to believe this, that the judges, for the most part, really want to do a good job. They're really there and they really want to protect children. But their dockets are so flooded. They don't have the time to look at the cases, to really delve into that evidence and really say, okay, So what's going on here? Mom saying this, dad saying this, where's the truth? One of the great things about 50-50 being your starting point is that unless the ball needs to be moved, that case should be in, out, done. So that should theoretically and in reality remove the majority of the cases from the docket. And that should then open up the judges to really have time to focus on those cases that the children of Texas need them focusing on. Because I can tell you, I've gone and court watched.
Absolutely.
And cases where you could tell that one parent really truly believes that their child is being abused. They really truly, they're not using legal abuse. You can tell by their mannerisms, by the way they talk. They're getting 5 minutes with that judge, the same as this lady over here who is upset and claiming abuse because she signed her kids up for an activity on dad's weekend and dad didn't take them. And that's something that 50-50 will help remove. Let's give the judges time to look at the right cases, the cases that they're needed on, and let's take these regular, everyday, I just want a divorce or I don't want a divorce cases, and let's remove them from the docket because we're clogging it for no reason whatsoever.
Absolutely. I'm in full agreement. Well, what is the next step is just wait and see what legislation does. Let's see where our leaders, hopefully they can think about it and think about our children and move in a step in the right direction.
One of the things that everybody can do is that they can contact their own personal representatives and senators. So you just got to make sure that when you call them that you are professional, that you are polite, and it's just a call to the office or just an email to their office asking them, telling them that you are, that they represent you and you're asking them to support the shared parenting bills. Pick which one. After more come out, pick which one you want. You can call right now for 803 and ask them to support that. And then if another one comes out that you like better, you can always call back and ask them to support that one too. Just make sure you're professional. One of the really important things is, unfortunately, because of the opposition to the shared parenting bills, the family law reform community, particularly the shared parenting community, has a bad reputation. Fathers just not wanting to pay child support, they're angry men, and it doesn't matter how many of us females are out in front. That seems to be something that keeps being brought up. So just to make sure when you call and you're talking to people that you're being over the top nice. You are making it very clear that you're not an angry dad. You're not an angry stepmom. You're not, any of that kind of stuff. If you're comfortable making an appointment with your representative or senator, see if they can fit you in. You can speak with them themselves. You can speak to their legislative directors. Really, you can ask if there's anyone that you can discuss the bill with in their office. Just to make sure that you're very understanding of their time, because they are very busy. We need to be very understanding that their schedule is very packed. I don't recommend talking about your story unless you can keep your emotions under control. Because at any point in time, if you get emotional, it can kind of pull the focus from what you're trying to focus on onto your emotional response. But that's what we need. So in all of the times that I've talked to legislators, in all of the time that I've been doing this in the last 3 or 4 years now, one of the things that I hear the most is that the legislators are not getting contacted with support for the shared parenting bill. The majority of the phone calls and the contact that they are getting are from custodial mothers talking about how their child support payments aren't there. So that is something that we need to fix. We need to call, we need to contact them, we need to continue to put in their minds that Texans, mothers, fathers, grandparents, have your parents call, their aunts and uncles, have your siblings call. Everyone in your family, if you are somebody who isn't divorced, or I'll be honest, if you're the parent of a boy, you need to get your voice heard, and you need to talk to your legislators, and you need to make it very clear that you are asking them to support these bills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to, Sarah, I want to thank you for standing up. And I want to thank everybody who stands up for all the rights to fight for our children, number one. And let's see what happens. Let's push forward, because I think this is a year that we might see a difference. And hopefully 2021 is that year that our children are going to start having equal time with their parents on that basis. Okay. So
thank you for
once
all
more,
of your shows on this as well.
No, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue, because this is something that is close to me. I've seen too many people go under, and it's sad. And number one, I also have children. In the future, something can happen. So we also need to make sure that the future is protected. We can't just throw it away.
Right.
So once more, thank you. And folks out there, if you're going through this, if you're going through a divorce and you want a little bit more time with your children, this is an excellent bill. And please listen. The number of the bill is what?
803.
803. It's shared parenting. And call your representative. It's very simple to find out what representative. Just call your county seat, and they'll tell you exactly who your representative is, and they'll give you a number. And sometimes you have two in the county, and call both of them. And that's just the way it is. We're running out of time. I want to thank you. And folks, please pay attention. There's a lot of shows that we've done on probably the last 3 years. And if you need any help, my number's always there. It's 956-401-4868. My email is simple. It's buitronacademy2012@gmail.com. Or make a comment on the video, and click on us, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube. Sarah, once more, thank you.
Today, in America, more than 5.5 million men, women, and children train in a martial art regularly. Buitron Academy has been serving Laredo for over 30 years now. Our adult classes are geared for producing the best in you, teaching you street-ready techniques. With the arts of Savate and Kinpo, you'll learn the traditions of these sciences of combat, as passed down professor to student.
Hello everybody, my name is Senior Grandmaster Alfredo Bandalan, owner of BDP, Bandalan the Siparis. I'd like to say a few words on Grandmaster Buitrón. He's a man of great integrity, a man of great knowledge of martial art. He's a master of Savate and master of Eskrima. He's a man that can help you to become what you want to be. He's a man that teaches people how to be somebody in life, how to work the world, how to be happy in this world. He's a man that I can say holds many integrity as well as in martial art. But I'd like to say this man has a radio station that's hunting all over the world, and he works with all kind of people, all walks of life. All I want to say, that Paul Buitrón is a man that can help people to be somebody in life. I'd like to say aloha, thank you.
I am Grandmaster Michael Duran of Original Huron Criminal Federation here in Vallejo, California. Professor Paul Buitrón is an accomplished martial artist who has developed an understanding that as a caretaker in our martial arts, it is his responsibility To keep the art alive and in depth, he acknowledged that it is the students that give the art life. I hold his friendship and his continuing accomplishments in the art in the most highest regard. Thank you.
Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Give us a call for your free evaluation at 956-401-4868 or check out our website at savat.biz. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook.
Bye-bye.